Hi everyone, welcome to our latest video on AIQ, WaveNet's Modern Work department. My name is David Campbell, I'm the product manager for Modern Work at WaveNet, and today we're going to be talking around some updates from a Microsoft perspective, some new things in the AI world, some agent work, and I'm joined today by Michael Sittig and Goodhart, and we're going to be talking around these new changes that have happened as well. Michael, let's talk about this 30-day grace period.
Yeah, so Microsoft has effectively removed the 30-day grace period, where previously, if a customer missed a renewal, they would have a 30-day grace period with the data and the functionality continuing on. What will happen moving forwards, as of the 1st of April this year, is they'll be automatically moved onto an extended service term. So that's going to be a 3% surcharge on top of their previous pricing, and they'll be able to continue to use the services and keep their data there for another 12 months at max. But it does give them time to get a renewal in place.
Yeah, essentially I think what Microsoft have recognised here is that there are customers that are getting to the point of renewal and then effectively getting a free 30 days of access to their license service. So I think this shift really is in a bid to try and remove that and prevent that from happening, and encourage customers to really get a handle of their renewal before their renewal date. And that's going to be really important to avoid these increases as well.
Yeah, we typically recommend contacting your licensing provider 90 days beforehand, just so that you can start that discussion. We can talk through any licensing changes, any new products, any new features, and we can review your estate together with you to help you make sure that it's the most cost-effective and functional solution for you.
Yeah, something I've noticed recently is there are still a lot of customers out there that aren't aware of the 5% fee that Microsoft introduced last year when you're still committing to pay for licenses annually but want to pay for them on a monthly basis. So there's effectively 3 pricing tiers now. You know, if you pay annually and pay upfront annually, that is RRP, what Microsoft refer to as RRP. Yeah. If you opt to pay for that monthly, so you're still committing for the year but you pay it monthly, you will simply pay a 5% fee on top of that license cost. And if you of course move to monthly, then that's a 20% premium on top of the RRP. So there's lots of different factors to consider now for customers when they're approaching renewal. So getting ahead of that and auditing, I suppose, their usage is super important.
Okay, so I think, legacy customers were used to paying monthly for their Microsoft licensing, made it more affordable for budgeting purposes. But if a business is in the position where they can pay annually, then they should probably do that and take advantage of that extra 5% discount that's available to them. Yeah. And they might not be aware that there isn't even a discount to do that.
Yeah, exactly that.
So good advice. So let's talk about the concept of renewal season, right? So we know the first part of the year is when most renewals happen. And we see things like co-terming being recommended to customers. So why does co-terming even come in? What's the situation that happens that results in a customer needing a co-term?
Yeah, so renewal season is typically from the end of the first quarter of the calendar year to the second quarter, and that's typically because Microsoft's financial year end is in June. And they tend to put a lot more promotions towards the end of their financial year in order to bring in as much business as possible. And renewal season happens because, if they're putting promotions in there, then customers will take advantage of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and absolutely. I think for me, one of the key benefits of co-terming is being able to look at your license renewal as a whole at one point in the year, rather than it being staggered across the year with different license renewal dates, just, I guess, spread across that 12-month period. It can be a headache to track that. And, of course, moving to these monthly or CSP agreements offers flexibility, but that doesn't mean that it should be a headache to manage. So having co-terminization, there, a Microsoft word that I think they've come up with, but we all seem to adopt. That co-terminization piece is super important because you can also look at negotiating better renewal deals as well with your partners, because you're looking at one amount as opposed to kind of sliced up amounts throughout the year.
And I think that the reason co-terming comes about and why that becomes a problem is it's kind of lazy licensing ordering, right? So they need another 10 licenses and they just order it mid-year and then they buy it for a year because it's a year commit, right? And then all your end dates are out of sync. And as a result, we often find that you're not optimally licensed. You have unused licenses as a result.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that certainly impacts organisations. You know, I quite often will see in various procurement portals 5 or 6 different subscriptions for one single product. And that might be because different admins have gone in there to make those orders and just don't really understand how that procurement portal works. So having the option to co-term when you're doing that just makes it more obvious that there is already this product here. Would you like to co-term it? And just bring it all into one date. And doing that across your product families is something that's just much more easy to do now.
So co-terming really just means making sure all your end dates align, right? And they're not all over the year.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, sounds like good advice to co-term all your agreements. Yeah. So how often should organizations be reviewing their licenses? When should they be talking to a licensing provider like WaveNet?
I mean, ideally, continuously, they should be reviewing their licenses throughout the year. But of course, time doesn't always permit that, right? So really, for me, I would always encourage you or customers to look at renewals at least 90 days before, because then it gives us an opportunity to run the kind of data aggregation tools that we utilize to identify some of these areas of underutilization or licenses. Exactly. Licenses attached to accounts that no longer exist, to really give us that opportunity to then advise them of those changes. But it's not also just changes to the licenses that they currently have. There might be conversations that we have there around what they're looking to do over the next 12 months and making use of some of the promotions and funded workshops that we've discussed earlier.
So I think, along with that licensing conversation is very much, have you deployed all your licenses? Have you taken advantage of all your licenses? And things change so much in a Microsoft world in a year. It's a really good opportunity just to kind of touch base and just talk around what the new bundles look like, what products are in those, and if you're just leveraging all of those effectively.
Absolutely.
So you spoke about tooling and optimization assessments. So talk to us about what tooling we have available, what the advantages the customers can be. How does that work?
I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, so we've got a new tool called Streamline, and it's based off of Microsoft's Graph API data. And it will be installed fairly quickly. It takes half an hour for someone with global admin access. And what it'll do is it'll aggregate all of the data within both the Azure and 365 environments. And we'll be able to then analyze that data and make recommendations on either the Azure environment and the architecture of the Azure environment in order to make sure that it's as cost effective and as functional as possible. And on the 365 side, whether or not they are over or under licensed.
It sounds like an expensive service. What does that cost, Michael? What are our customers paying?
It's absolutely free to our customers.
That sounds like a great idea. So we've got a tool that we can help customers with, help optimize their license and help save them some money.
Yeah, the only cost really is patience, because it takes about 21 days for us to pull that data in.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about agents. So, we've spent the last 2 years talking about Copilot and AI and generative AI. Microsoft at Ignition was talking about agents all over the place, right? What is an agent? And why is this word coming up all the time now? Can you give me your opinion on that and what you think about it?
Yeah, sure. So my understanding really of an agent is it utilizes artificial intelligence to run, but it does the job that a person could do. So it runs slightly different from the Copilot software that integrates with the 365 applications, that our users interact with prompts, but actually gives it specific task-based roles. That's my interpretation of an agent.
So if you look at Copilot itself, it actually comes with 2 based agents that people use right off the bat. So they've got the analyst agent and they've got the research agent, right? So those agents aren't just large learning models, they have a specific purpose, right? They're experts at research, they're expert in analysis, and we're starting to see some new agents coming out that are default by Microsoft. Any that we should be aware of?
Their employee self-service agent, for me, is if you go to HR and you have a specific HR-related question, and that HR bot needs to respond in a way that is factual and uses the HR policies that are set out for that organisation, and that agent understands that. It understands the context of the question and who it needs to be to provide a response. So it's very to the point. But you might have an agent that is in an environment where it can be more free-flowing, creative. It might be in a marketing department, for example, and it understands that actually here I can be more elaborative and creative in my response to the prompt. So for me, it's the agent understands kind of who it needs to be and the kind of persona that it needs to take on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So part of Microsoft, they allow you to create your own agents, right? And that could be, if you get asked the same questions all the time, well, why don't you just publish your manual to an agent and let that agent respond to those queries? That sounds like a huge time saver and seems to be an easy way of finding information.
Yeah. But conversely, with the ability to create your own agents, either within the Copilot application itself or through the Copilot Studio, you could end up with a number of agents that might not necessarily be taking from data from the correct source. So Microsoft has also released Agent 365, which is a single pane of glass where an organization can monitor and control all of the agents within the organizations.
Yeah, I think what we're going to find is a lot of agents getting created and then maybe just forgotten about. And this is now a platform where you can actually govern all the agents being created and actually manage them as an environment or outsource that to an MSP.
Agreed.
I think that's also a differentiator with Microsoft Copilot, because if you think about it, while the other tools that are available in the marketplace, we talk about things like Gemini or ChatGPT, you can create agents on those platforms. There doesn't seem to be an enterprise platform to manage those different agents now. So I think that's something else that's creating a differentiator for Microsoft.
Yeah, if you put Agent 365 together with AIQ, it makes much more sense for an organization who's looking at an AI proposition going forward in their future to look at Microsoft's versus Grok or Gemini.
Yeah, and it's that integration as well with some of the Microsoft security and data compliance products that we've spoken about. The integration between Copilot versus using, Grok or some of the other LLMs is again, for me, a key differentiator.
So while other tools may have some unique advantages over Microsoft, right? I mean, there may be a specific use case for a particular LLM tool to do something that someone needs that maybe Copilot is not the strongest at. Copilot seems to be a good benchmark for generic generative AI purposes, and that seems to be a good place to start if you're in that Microsoft ecosystem already. But there may still be other tools that we can use for specific purposes.
Yeah, Microsoft is bringing out new Copilots all the time. They've just brought out Copilot Dragon, which is specifically for GPs and nurses. They've brought out Copilot for Finance, which is for your finance divisions. They've brought out Copilot for Sales, which would help cold callers and people with responding to sales emails and looking up past bids and tenders and things. So Microsoft's constantly bringing out new versions of Copilot that are specialized to perform certain functions.
And agents, I think, would also really be good at integrating into other data sources that you have. So integrating into your CRM data, for example, and pulling some intelligence from that. Information from your website, being able to quickly respond to queries and that. So lots of changes on agents. And I don't think every employee in every business is going to be buying a Copilot license and using it. I think you're probably going to find a percentage of staff will use that, but you'll probably find other people in the organization will use the agent mode, right? Where they're actually querying a body of knowledge and getting fast answers to that which used to be in a manual of some sort.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you could argue a use case for Copilot and agents across every department of a business.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you do find that you have users who don't have a Copilot license, but they are utilizing the agents, then Microsoft does have a pricing model for that, where it's priced on a per request basis, on a per prompt basis.
So you don't actually have to license all of your users for Copilot to be able to use agents in Copilot. Right.
Correct.
Okay. Well, thanks very much for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed that video, and please feel free to watch some of our other videos or get in touch if you've got something that you specifically want an answer on. Thanks for joining.